Good morning and welcome back, guys. I am about to get started. Give me a couple minutes and we'll get moving forward. I'm sorry I'm a little bit late this morning. Had some technical issues getting everything going this morning. So until we do, I'm going to play a little bit of music and we will get started here in about 4 minutes. Thank you, guys. Good morning, guys. Again, sorry, I apologize. I'm a little bit late this morning getting started. We're gonna get started around 8:09 or 8:10. Had some technical issues this morning with the PowerPoint, so I just wanted to get you guys in here, and we'll get moving here in a second. All right. Good morning, everyone. It'll take about however long it takes. We'll see. Oh my goodness, you gotta get off that roll. All right. Yes, you can still visit Pompeii. The volcano is now dormant. Um, it's it happens after it happens during the Republic stage, and we'll actually get to that. It's actually recorded really well by the Romans. And yes, you can absolutely go visit the site today. It's one of the best Roman ruin sites in the world. It's the most intact Roman ruin site that we have. All right. No, Hannah, you can definitely go visit it today. You can definitely go visit it. Can you guys hear me? Am I coming through loud and clear? guys, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Today we are going back with Rome has no king. Sort of. The foundation of Rome. So good morning and welcome back to my favorite civilization, ancient Rome. Earlier this week we talked about the founding cultural group, the founding tribes, the founding ethnic groups that embodied the Romans, and now we also talked about the story of Romulus and Remus. Today we're going to be talking about the kings who made up the Roman Empire, and we're going to begin the study of the city of Rome today. So it's very important that we pay attention because so much is going to happen in this lesson that is essential to understanding how Rome develops, how Rome forms, and what Rome is eventually going to become. So it's very important that we pay attention to what these kings do and how they do it, because these actors, and I call them actors, it's a good term for politicians as actors. These actors are now on a stage that's going to have massive consequences in the future. Whether those consequences are good or bad is something we will discover through this PowerPoint. So the agenda for today, we have a welcome. We're going to do expectations, essential questions, and objectives. That'll take us roughly 3 minutes. Then we're going to talk about the kings of Rome. That's about 15 to 20 minutes. Then we'll have a question and answer period following a story that I have to tell you guys to get moving forward. And so today's subject matter is a little bit aggressive for us, and I apologize for that ahead of time. The problem is when we get into ancient Rome, we're going to see some more aggressive nature of human beings, kind of like with the Assyrians. And like I told you guys before, history can be very, very, very dark and depressing and sad. But it's important that we learn these things, because if we don't learn these things, we can't learn from these things. All right. We'll finish that, then we'll have some questions time, and then I'll go live for you guys on YouTube to help with any questions that you may have about today. So, my expectations today, I want you to take notes and pay attention. I want you to ask questions. Questions help us seek a deeper knowledge of topics. I want you guys to make connections to our previous lessons in civilizations. I want you to learn something new, and I want you to have fun. Standard 3, again, is recognize significant events, figures, and contributions of classical civilizations, Phoenicia, Greece, Rome, and Axum. So our objective is we want to understand the myth and tradition surrounding the founding of Rome. So my essential question for you is, how did the founding of Rome reflect its past and future? How did the founding of Rome reflect its past and future? Hannah, you just asked a great question. Why did the Romans idolize the Greeks? I thought they hated them. No, they idolized the Greeks. They saw what the Greeks had done as incredible. They really did think what the Greeks had accomplished was absolutely exceptional. Now, the Greeks, they would have thought very little of the Italians. They would have thought very little of the Romans as their founding. Even when the Romans took them over, they probably thought very little of them. That being said, just like the Macedonians, the Romans saw the highlight, or the high period of the Greek civilization, and so they idolized that. They really wanted that. They knew that's where all the wealth and learning and knowledge was in Greece, and so they wanted that to be in Rome. They wanted to be the new Athens. They wanted to be the new military like Sparta. They wanted all of that, but they wanted it all together, and they wanted to control much, much more. And so they idolized it, and they took it over, and they kind of converted it in their own way. So how did the founding of Rome reflect its past and future? That's the question we're going to be trying to answer today. And guys, be prepared to answer that question. How did the founding of Rome reflect its past and future? So I want you to think about, again, where does Rome come from? That Trojan tradition coming from the city of Troy, being mixed with different ethnic groups in the region, and then growing into what it became, the world's greatest empire of the ancient world, and how it was able to do that. So the 7 kings of Rome. And here's, we're going to get moving from here. So, the first kings were Romulus and Titus Tatius. We call this group the first kings. All right, these were 2 guys And I'm going to kind of explain why. So, after founding the city of Rome, Romulus sought to transform it from a village to a city. When he started out, it's just a collection of people. It's a village. Rome isn't some massive city. It's not holding 1,000,000 people. In fact, it's very small, and it's really centered on one small hill in a swamp. If we really want to think about it, by the time Romulus is there, it's a small hill in a swamp full of smelly shepherds. Alright? It's not a great place to live. So Romulus realizes that it's important to bring people in. So he starts inviting people from all over Italy, all over the known world even, to come live in the city of Rome. He gave them land. He let them become a founding family. These early families would end up playing major roles in Roman society. But it was very important to Romulus to bring people in. But there was a problem. These people he brought in were mostly men. Alright? There's no babies in Rome. And so Romulus has to figure out how to bring women into the city of Rome, because they're not moving there. They're staying with their husbands, wherever that may be. He really got men that were travelers. He got men that were not married. He got men that weren't really family men. He got kind of just some dudes that may have been bad on their luck, may have been criminals in other countries, probably been soldiers their whole lives. He got people that needed a wife and they needed to settle down, and they didn't have that opportunity in their own homeland. And so Romulus comes up with a plan. What he does is he invites all these people from the Sabines to a big dinner. And at the dinner, his men come out with swords and they kidnap all the women, and the men go running back to Sabine. Well, the Sabine king hears about this, and he is really upset. And Titus TATIUS was his name. He attacked Rome and took the capital. And so they were fighting for a while, and Romulus finally goes, you know what, Titus, what if we both agreed to being king? We can both be the king of the city of Rome. Let's make it something spectacular. Titus agrees, and so the Sabines were completely joined into Rome. And so the first two Roman kings are Romulus and Titus Tatus. This is a scene of them coming back together to meet and to agree not to attack each other and to form an alliance. And so this was a very important moment in Roman history, was the founding and the peace between Romulus and Titus Tatus. So Romulus and Titus Tatus are both going to pass away, but not before establishing a senate. All right, a senate was a group of people, mostly noblemen, or all noblemen from important families, who were allowed to vote on certain issues, and those issues concerned things that the king did or policies that he had. The Senate was there to support him. So the Senate also had the responsibility of selecting the next king. And so they picked a guy named NUMA Pompilius. Now, NUMA was credited with being born on the day Rome was founded. His parents were Sabian, and he was but he was liked by both Romans and Sabians. All right, so he was born on the day Rome was founded. Makes it perfect to be the second king. Numa was chosen as the king 1 year after Romulus had died. So there was an interim period after Romulus had died. And they came to Numa and said, hey, we want you to be the king of Rome. And Numa looked at them and said, no, not me. I'm not the right guy. And he refused the crown. Can you imagine this? They're saying, we want you to be a king. And you say, it's not for me. I don't want to be a king. I would rather be a farmer. That's literally what Numa said. Numa didn't think he was worthy of the crown. He didn't think he was the right fit. He thought this because he's a very humble person. And that's actually a trait that the Romans would very much idolize later on. And it's a trait we still idolize today. Someone that is humble enough to turn down great power. And at first he refuses, but in order to convince Numa, the Senate sent a massive contingent of people to beg him to become king. The Senate literally had to get everyone they could think of, anyone that could have any influence on him, and sent them all to his farm and say, please, 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 come be the king. What a great sign that is. When people are begging you to be the leader, it's because they love you. It's because they know what you're capable of, and because Numa was able to convince, or Numa had such a sway on people, he brought this great love and this great passion for him to become a leader. And so Numa becomes the new king. Numa is known for disbanding the king's personal guard, which Romulus had established. Romulus was always afraid of getting killed. He established a personal guard of 300 men that he had with him constantly. So he had at least 100 men ready to fight at a moment's notice around him at all times. Numa was like, this is stupid. I don't want this thing. I don't want 300 people following me around. You know, the president complains about the Secret Service. I can't imagine what it was like to have 300 people walking around you. So Numa disbands the personal ground, and he promoted religious growth in Rome. He died peacefully of old age in 673 BC and was succeeded by his son. So Numa really was the first king to really show what a good king was. Romans idolized Numa. They really thought a lot of him. He was very peaceful. He didn't really invade anybody. He didn't really expand Rome, though, but he was known for just being a good, humble king. Here's a picture of Numa. I love his beard. He looks like a shepherd to me. Not the most aggressive Roman painting, which we'll see later on. They get more aggressive as we go through it. Tullus Hostilius. This is a great name. Hostilius, hostile. Tullus the hostile. He was hostile because he was a warlike king. So have you ever heard the word hostile? Or hostile? It means aggressive. My dad used to use that term when I played I played soccer, pee-wee soccer. He said, you're mobile, hostile, and agile. Hostile, aggressive. Tullius Hostilius was very aggressive. He was a warlike king, and he makes a stark distinction from him and the previous kings of Rome. Tullius is credited with two major events. One, he captured the city of Alba Longa. If we remember, Alba Longa is where Romulus and Remus were born, and he built the first Roman house, first Roman Senate house, the Curia Hostilia, which was named after him. All right, Curia, the house built by Hostilia. One of the myths about Tullus' death is that his house was hit by lightning, and everybody in the house was killed, and the house was burnt to ground. So he actually has two myths about his death. One of them is his house was hit by lightning. The other one was that one of his political enemies paid off Tullius' servants to sneak swords into his house, and then they attacked and killed him and his entire family. I like the lightning story a little bit better. It also included his horse. I don't know why Livy needed to include that the horse also was burned to death in the fire, but he did. It's just Livy. It's who Livy is. He likes to include weird details. And so Tullus dies in a really strange way. It's not the last time we're going to see a Roman king die, or Roman anything die in a kind of a strange occurrence. This is Tullius at a battle, defeating Alba Longa. He's on the horse there, the one right in the middle. Alright, next we have ANCUS Marcius. Now, ANCUS Marcius understood that a good Roman king must embody both religion and peace. Religion/peace and warfare. So, ANCUS made religion the center of life in Rome. Just like our second king of Rome, just like Numa, ANCUS understood the importance of religion. He understood the importance of peace. And he made religion the center of life in Rome. He realized if he kept people focused on religion, they're not going to rebel, they're going to follow his rules, they're going to be morally correct. And so he made religion the center of life in Rome again. He reestablished religious festivals and brought back important religious positions like priests. But on the other hand, ANCUS was heavily tested by the Latins and the Etruscans. ANCUS defeated many Latin cities and moved the populations of those towns to Rome. In fact, in one case, he attacked a city, defeated it, took the entire population, moved them to Rome, and in a few years, that city had been re-inhabited by the same tribe. All right, so he went there, he took all those Latins out. The first time, another group of Latins moved in. So he went back to that city. This time, he completely destroyed it and moved the entire population. And it became this new policy that he had where he'd go into a city, he'd take all the people, and then he would destroy the city in front of them and move them all to Rome. So he was really, 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 all these kings were very invested in growing the population of Rome. They really want Rome to become a massive city-state. In order to do that, the city's got to grow. It can't be a village. It has to be a city. That's our important distinction I want you to remember today. The difference between a village and a city. A village is a small group of people. A city's a large group of people. It's very important we understand that. Ancus also established Rome's first port at Ostia, which would allow the Romans to begin to enter trade relationships with other countries. Ancus died of natural causes in 617 BC. It's actually a typo there. It's not other countries, it would be other cities. But Rome really does want to get into the trade. They don't have a port. Remember, they're not on the ocean. They're near the ocean. They're not on the ocean. And so they had to establish a port at Ostia, which would become very, very, very important for Rome in the future. So that port at Ostia allowed the Romans to reach out to other cities in the Mediterranean Ocean, or Mediterranean Sea, and really begin to grow. There's Ancus on a coin. Ancus on a coin. What's cool about Roman coinage is you can still find it just about anywhere. I know some of you have seen my Roman coin that I keep in my desk at school. It's something I like to pass out and show everybody. But what's cool about Roman coinage is it's all over Europe. You can actually find it just about anywhere. When my sister went to Paris, she found Paris used to be a Roman colony. You can find magic there. So you can find coins there. So you just gotta look around. They're everywhere. They're very, very, very cheap. It's not like these things are expensive to buy. You can buy something like that for a few dollars and have a legitimate Roman coin all your own. Lucius Tarquinius Priscus, meaning the first. He was the 5th king of Rome. Oh, sorry, Hannah. Yes, Ancus Marcius. He actually died of natural causes, so he died very peacefully. Meaning he just probably died of old age. Really, there's when they say natural causes, it could be a disease, it could be old age. There's not always a perfect answer to that question. It could be anything. All right, but typically natural causes mean he died peacefully. He wasn't assassinated by anybody, which is more than we can say for a lot of these Roman kings. Our 5th king is Lucius Tarquinius Priscus. Sorry, he's a very difficult one to pronounce. Tarquin, as we're going to call him for short, was a native of Etruria, a city-state outside of Rome. And seeking new opportunities, he moved to Rome with his wife. As he entered the city, something amazing happened. So he enters the city on a chariot with his wife next to him, and an eagle swoops down and grabs his hat and flies off. It then returns the hat to his head. So the eagle takes his hat, flies away, then later comes back with the hat. For Tarquin, this is a huge moment. It means that he is destined for greatness. He really, really believed in signs and prophecy, and so this was very important to him. Hannah asked a great question. Why was he called Crooked Arm? Ancus was called Crooked Arm because Ancus literally means, the first part, Ancus literally means crooked arm. And then Marcius would have been his real name. Ancus means crooked arm. He probably had some kind of birth defect in his arm or he was double jointed, which allowed him to have a crooked arm, and it was something that people noticed. They're not super creative with naming things, right? Why would you call somebody crooked arm? Well, because they got a crooked arm. Unfortunately, that's exactly what it was. Alright, so, as Tarquin enters the city, the hat is taken. He realizes he's designed for greatness, and so does old Crooked Arm. He sees that Tarquinius is very important, and he pretty much selects Tarquinius to become the next king. The Senate approves. They vote him in with the will of the people, and Tarquinius becomes the 5th king of Rome. He's really known for his military campaigns. He defeated both the Sabians and the Etruscans, and he forced many of the cities he conquered to become Roman. Again, it's that whole changing a village into a city, right? We got to change Rome from a village to a city. Tarquin started major construction projects. He built the Circus Maximus. If you guys remember, the Circus Maximus is a racetrack. It was built by the Romans to race chariots on. It's also where they held boxing matches, and so he ordered the first set of games to be boxing matches and chariot races, and the Roman people loved it. Now they built seating just for the rich, just for senators and noble families. We'll talk about the distinction between nobles and peasants in a minute. But he was very well known for that, the Circus Maximus. But most importantly, he developed the Colloquia Maxima. The Colloquia Maxima is a giant sewer. It's under the ground, and it's about 9 feet tall when you're underneath it. So it's a very, very big sewer. The Colloquia Maxima is actually an engineering masterpiece. It still works today. We didn't really know much about it until about the 90s. The Romans were doing construction in the city, or the Italian government was doing construction in the city of Rome on their old sewer that they had built following World War II, when they dug down too far and they broke into the Colloquia Maxima. And they found that this Colloquia Maxima was still running. It was still carrying water out of the city of Rome at an astonishing rate. They didn't know it was still active. It really was mind-boggling for many people. And you can actually go and visit the Colloquia Maxima today. It's not a filthy place. It was designed to move water out of the city of Rome. You remember, I told you before, Rome was a swamp. The river overflows. It destroys a lot of stuff. It actually happens during Tarquin's reign. There's a great flood, and it destroys a lot of the city of Rome. And so, to make sure it doesn't happen again, he establishes he builds the Colloquia Maxima, and starts moving all of that water out of the city. He also established a large wall to protect Rome from invasion. Tarquin was actually killed during a riot. He would not be he'd be the first of a long line of Roman political leaders killed by mobs of Roman citizens. There is rumor, though, that Livy suggests that this mob was actually started by one of his political opponents in order that they could take the throne. But Tarquinius is going to die during this, and his sons are conveniently not in the town when it happens. They had been sent off on a hunting trip, and so they're not there, and a secret an election takes place, but something happens that they weren't expecting. A guy by the name of Servius Tullius, probably the greatest king of all the Romans, is elected. Now, Servius Tullius would be the first Roman king to be completely elected by the Roman Senate. This is the first time in history that the people of Rome did not have a voice in the election of the king. Alright, so the king was elected by the Senate. It wasn't passed down from father to son. There really were the heirs never really were able to take care of the throne until we get to Tarquin's kids. But Servius Tullius, he's elected. And Servius is well known for his reforms. This guy was a good king. He understood that things need to be done for the common people. He granted voting rights to the plebes, and I'll explain plebes here in a second. Plebes were landless citizens living inside the city of Rome. So these people that didn't own land, they were called plebes or plebeians. And I'll explain more about that in a minute. Servius also created mandatory military service. So if you were a male, you had to serve in the military, and expressed the importance of taxation. Servius was assassinated by his daughters and their husbands, who claimed that Servius cared more for the lower class than he did about the upper class. And I'll explain all of that here in a second. But first, let's talk about patricians and plebeians. All right, so a patrician, Patrician, a patrician is a Roman who owns land. They're a noble, and they are upper class. These are the rich people in Rome. There's very few of them, but these are the people that kind of make the city run. They're military leaders. They are very wealthy. They may be massive landowners. They may have massive farms. All right, and then and they typically live outside of the city of Rome. They'd have a apartment or a house inside of Rome, but for the most part, they'd live outside of the city. And then you have the plebeians. The plebeians lived in the city of Rome, typically, or in other cities, and they had very few rights. They were typically soldiers that were retired and living off of their check. They received money every week for kind of a retirement after they'd been a soldier. So plebeians were this lower class, less money sort of person. So let's talk about the assassination. So Servius is assassinated by his daughters and their husbands. Their husbands were the sons of Tarquinius. And the sons of Tarquinius believed that their throne was stolen from them. And so they came up with a plan. What they did is they went to, one of them convinced other senators to help him, while the other one gave an impassionate speech calling Servius a son of a slave, and that he was born as a slave, and that he was the king of Rome, and that shouldn't have happened, and that he was this terrible person, and he cared more for the lower class than he did for the upper class, and he throws this Senate into hysteria. And Servius comes to calm everyone down and to defend himself, and on his way into the Senate, he's grabbed by one of the Tullius, one of Tarquin's kids, and he's thrown from the steps of the Senate house, where he falls to the ground, he's stabbed to death, and then his daughter drives over him in a chariot. Alright, so quite a very violent, painful death. It's not going to be the last time a Roman leader is assassinated. It actually becomes a very common practice in ancient Rome, and it's going to continue to happen once we get into the emperors. But going over our magic word for the day. Our magic word for the day is actually a set of magic words, and I wonder if you can guess what it is by looking at the PowerPoint and how much I spoke about it. It is patrician and plebeians. Patrician and plebeians. So those two terms, those are the words for the day. The quiz today is going to be 2 questions on Go Formative. It's going to be, what was the first word of the day? That's patrician. And what was the second word of the day? That's plebeians. Alright? So first word, patrician. Second word, plebeian. Alright, everyone got that? I'll give you a second to write it down. Make sure you spell it correctly. Verl, when you get done writing it down, put yes. I'm going to assume that we are done. So, we're moving on. Do not ask me how to spell something that is on a PowerPoint slide. Faith, the quiz will be up probably around 10 o'clock. Maybe before. We'll see. Alright. So, Lucius Tarquinius Superbus. He's the 7th king of Rome and Rome's last king. So Tarquin, or Tarquin the Proud, as he was known, Superbus means the proud, was the 7th and last king of Rome. Tarquin is not known for being kind. He murdered his political opponents, used deception and warfare, and stripped rights away from the common citizens. I have a couple stories about it. One of them is, as soon as he became the king, he wanted to meet with the Latins to have form a treaty. And so he calls the Latins to this beautiful pond where they all meet up and they start talking. Well, one of the Roman senators goes there and says, hey, we don't want to have this treaty. Don't trust this guy. He's talking to the Latins. He goes, don't trust Tarquinius. He's a bad dude. He's a terrible guy. He's going to betray you. This is who he is, right? He murdered and executed our last king, so don't trust him. And Tarquin's Tarquin has a plan to counter this. He's like, well, you think you got me? So he convinces his servants, the servants of that senator, to bring swords into his house and to leave them there, and kind of like try to hide them. He then convinces the Latins that that senator was lying to them, and he's actually planning on attacking them. And to show proof, he shows them this house full of swords where there weren't supposed to be any swords. And this really angers the Latins. And so what Tarquin does is he places a basket, a wooden basket on top of this guy's head, the senator's head, and throws him in the pond. And then everyone takes turns throwing rocks into that basket to force this guy under the water and drown him. Quite a terrible death that Tarquinius planned for this individual. But that's Tarquin for you. He's a really bad dude. On another occasion, he tries to take over a city. He can't do it. So he has his son whipped and has his son defect to the town he's trying to take over. And they welcome him in, and they say, man, you're a military genius. You're a really good guy. Why don't we go ahead? We're going to make you, you're devoted to beating your dad. Why don't we go ahead and make you in charge of our military here in the city? And so Tarquin's son is in charge of the military of the city called Elbia, is the name of the city. He becomes in charge of it, and then he's like, Dad, I have their trust. He sends a messenger to say, hey, I got their trust. What do you want me to do? And his dad doesn't say anything. Instead, he picks up a stick, and he starts knocking fruit off a tree with that stick. And his son knew exactly what it meant, and so he starts killing the nobles in this town of Elbia. He claims that they're traitors. He claims that they're doing the things the wrong way. And so he's able to deliver the city of Elbia to his father without the Roman army having to siege the city. Quite ingenious strategy. But again, Tarquin is not known for being a nice guy. And so that leads us to our final story today. And it's actually a very dark story, and I apologize for it. But it has to be said because there's no way to understand ancient Rome becoming the Roman Republic without talking about this story. And it's a very important story, and I apologize for it. So, a group of important Roman people, including Tarquin, were all talking about how virtuous their wives were, how they were loyal and kind and sweet and virtuous. And so they make a bet. They said, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to spy on these women, and we're going to see which one is most virtuous. And so they all go spy on the women. And they go to the first guy's house, and let's call them Bob, Fred, and Tarquin. So they go to Bob's house, and Bob's wife is cheating on Bob, all right? And so they go, well, she's not very virtuous, it can't be her. And then they go to Tarquin's house, and his wife is drinking and partying and causing a ruckus, and they say, well, she's not very virtuous, it can't be her. And finally they go to Fred's house, and they see Fred's wife, and her name is Lucretia. And Lucretia is absolutely virtuous as can be. She's at home, and she is doing her duties for the household. She's running the household, and she's cooking and cleaning and doing everything that the Romans view as virtuous for women to do. And so they're all very jealous of Fred. And so what Tarquin does is he goes to Fred's house and goes to Lucretia and says, hey, you're going to be my wife, or I'm going to kill you and say that you were cheating on your husband with a slave. And Lucretia's like, well, I can't let that happen. And so she says, well, you know what, I will marry you. But then she feels very bad about it and ends up killing herself after she explains what had happened to her husband, Fred, and her dad. And both of those guys were important Roman senators. And this is actually called the story of the rape of Lucretia. And it's a very sad story. But what happens is the Romans are so inflamed, they're so mad about this, that the king would do this, that he would hurt this virtuous woman, right? That he would do this. They formed a large army, and they came after Tarquin, and they got into a massive battle. And one of the greatest stories, it takes place on a bridge and it's called the Herodotus Bridge. Or sorry, yeah, it's called the Herodotus at the Bridge. And so what had happened is the Roman army, the King Tarquin and his army, which also had Etruscans, went to attack the city of Rome. And they're coming across a bridge as the Roman army, commanded by the Senate, is trying to retreat and get back. And this guy named POMPILIUS Horatius Calicus looks out and he sees that the Romans are going to be overwhelmed. And so he steps onto the bridge with two other people. It's a very narrow bridge. And he says, you know what? I'm going to fight and I'm going to hold this bridge so my men can get away. And he fought at this bridge while his men destroyed the bridge behind him so that they could prevent the other army from crossing over, to prevent Tarquin's men from crossing over. So Titus Herodotus stands at the bridge with three other men, and they fight off an army while his own men destroy his escape behind him. It was a last stand, a last-ditch effort that signified him as a hero for all time. It's a single man or three men facing down an army, a story that has been told for hundreds of times, but never have we seen such an incredible victory, an incredible sacrifice of any one individual, and it really embodies what it means to be a Roman. It really embodies what it meant for Romans to stand and fight for their country, and we see that throughout Roman history. We'll see Romans making desperate stands to save their country, to save their city, to save who they are, even to the last man. They will fight and fight and fight and fight and fight, and it's all about honor and integrity, and it's an amazing, amazing thing. And we'll see more of that. One of my favorite people in history is a guy by the name of Cincinnatus, and we'll talk about who Cincinnatus was later on. But the city of Cincinnati was named after him. If you can imagine, somewhere in the United States being founded, 1,000, almost 2,000 years after his death, naming their city after this Roman because he made such an impactful stand. We see that again here. So Tarquinius is finally defeated, and he has to retreat. And the Romans rallied to this cry that echoed through the ages following this. Rome has no king. So the Senate is now in charge, and the Roman Republic has been formed. So from now on, until the empire is formed somewhere around 30 BC, Rome is going to be a republic. They're going to be a democracy. They're going to vote and decide things, and they're going to have two political leaders that are voted into office that are going to serve a short term, and we're going to start talking about the consuls and the Roman Senate next week. So I hope you guys enjoy this. I know it's quite a sad story, the rape of Lucretia, but it brings about the greatest change in Roman history that it has to be spoken of. And there's no way to study Rome without talking about it, so I apologize for that story. But it's very important that you know it in order to understand the importance of the Roman Republic and understand why Rome has no king. So that's it for me today. Look for the formative. I'm going to put the assignment up on Teams, so you guys will see it there. All right, I hope you enjoyed it, guys. I will talk to you later. Any questions, go ahead and send them my way now. I can stay on here for a little bit, but then I'm going to switch over to live, and we'll talk about you there. Any questions? Yeah, Faith. It's a sad story. If you guys were in 10th grade, I'd tell it a little bit differently, and it's actually a lot sadder when you're a little bit older. The information's a little bit easier to deliver. Any questions before I switch to live? Bye, Chris. Goodbye, Talon. Goodbye, Chloe. Goodbye, Sam Nestor. Goodbye, Hannah. You had enough time to get to your next class? Alright, any questions, guys, before I switch over? When is the quiz going up? Great question. It should be up by 10 o'clock. It may be I'm a little bit after that. What was the magic word? Hey, go back and watch it. Oh, well then you need to go back to that second that you weren't at your computer and go watch it. Bye, Kylie. Goodbye, Sam. Dylan, go watch the video. You're gonna have to go back to that one you missed. Not how it works. Not tricking Mr. Canelo today. Alright, and we are switching over. I'll catch you guys later.